Hi, authors. So today we're going to talk about elements of success, but we're going to talk about, or elements of success for a book, but we're going to talk specifically about the book's content. So what is inside the book? What is written in that book? How is it written? How is it conveyed, etc., etc. So one of the first decisions that an author has a tendency to make is what perspective they want to write in. So do they want to write in first person perspective? Do they want to write in third person perspective? How do they want to put their book out there? If you're torn about this, or if you're unsure about this, first try to see how the characters are speaking to you. So are they speaking to you more in a first person standpoint? Like, for instance, can you hear their actual thoughts? Can you hear conversations from the characters? Or do you just see like a scene kind of playing out in your mind? If you see more of like a scene playing out in your mind, then that might be an indication that is better. Your book will be better served as a third person book. If it's something to where you can actually see the reader, or hear the reader, or hear the character speaking to you directly, then that might be a situation to where you need to write a first person book. Let's say that you're really up in the air about all of that. Another thing you could do is go look at the top books that are selling in your genre and see, like, are those books typically written in first person, or are they typically written in third person? So you can look at those, play around with it, and see, like, okay, the best written books nowadays, are they written in first person? Are they written in third person? How are the other authors doing it? So that's the first thing. So deciding your perspective, or your which perspective you're going to use, first person or third person. So another thing that goes into the content is what your actual plot structure is. So when your inciting incident occurs, how does it occur? Is this reflective of the books in the genre? Your plot structure, is it something that is reflective of the genre? Does the story kind of go in the way that readers would expect it to go? That doesn't mean that you can't have your own twist or your own way that you want things to happen, but it does mean that it kind of has to fit in those expectations. So we're expecting this to, like, for instance, in a romance, you're expecting the two people to meet in some kind of way. It's called a meet cute if you look at romance, or if you read romance. So you're expecting them to meet somewhere within the first couple chapters. You're expecting them to go through, their back and forth or whatever, getting to know each other, and whether they're enemies, lovers, friends and lovers, or they're just start off dating, however they do that, you're expecting them to get to know each other in some kind of way. You're expecting a few roadblocks to come into their path, and then you're expecting a huge climactic roadblock to come into the path, to the point where it seems like this couple may not make it at all, or will not make it. They're not going to happen. And then after that, somehow, some way, through a couple twists and turns, they're expected to get back together and have a happily ever after, or at least a happy for now. That's usually the general expectation for a romance book. For a thriller, it could go in different ways. So some thrillers start off to where you have the inciting incident, to where, like, there's a scene that's shown where there's a dead body or something's going on or whatever, and then all of a sudden it comes to present day, and then the story starts to go on, and then we start to figure out, okay, what led to that dead body, what happened to that, etc., etc. Other thrillers, they kind of go back and forth between the past and the future, the past and the future, past and the future, and then some are told in more of a sequential order. But there's a lot of twists and turns in between as we try to figure out what's going on with this story. So the content of a book will be largely dependent upon the genre and the reader's expectations of that genre. And if you're not aware of those, you would go look at the top 100 books, see how those are structured, see what's written in them, how the content flows, and then make sure your book doesn't fall too far outside of that pattern, because you do want to give readers what they expect when they're reading a book. Doesn't mean you have to copy another author. It just means that you have to follow the general pattern that that other authors in that genre follow, if they are successful, and if you want to be successful as well.